Pastor Dan here. It's good to be with New Life again via this video. If you can believe it, it was about 9 weeks ago I made another video and I announced that we were temporarily closing down our Sunday services because of this emerging COVID crisis. Now, 2 months later, a lot has transpired, and what started out as something small now has become a worldwide pandemic. But God has been faithful. I want to give you an update today on our reopening. I want to talk to you about some of the policies that we have in place to make our reopening exciting but very, very safe for you and your family. So buckle up. This will take about 8 minutes or so, I'm guessing. We'll see. And so I have a lot of information here. It's a really important video. New Life is doing a phased-in reopening, and our first day open to the whole public is Pentecost Sunday, May 31st. All campuses will be opened, and all services except the classic service will be opened. And because of the governor's guidelines, we will be at about 1/3 of our normal size, and we're putting in some very good procedures in place to make your visit back to the church very safe and very meaningful. Let me first of all, before I tell you what those procedures are, I want to tell you that the process by which New Life has come up with a very intensive set of rules and a strategy and protocol. First of all, we have been very aware of the CDC's recommendations and the governor and the president and all those in authority. And the position of our church is to listen to the experts and follow as good citizens the guidelines that those in authority over us are putting in place. And up to this point, I think all the guidelines have been reasonable. So we've been listening to the CDC, the governor, and the federal government. Second of all, we had developed a health team at the church. Some of you know that. We took 5 health professionals and asked them to be on this team, and periodically we've been talking, and I visited with them a couple of weeks ago now and asked them, what do we need to consider in our reopening? And they gave some really good advice, and they helped us see some different perspectives on the reopening of our church. So we're taking the advice of a professional health team. We've also done a lot of research on what other churches that we respect are doing, mega churches and smaller churches all around the nation, and seeing what we can gather from them. And our pastoral team. We have been doing a lot of dialoguing. We all have families, and we have a large pastoral team, which I think is a very good representation of the church. And we've been doing a lot of discussion and research and planning together. And then finally, we used a survey. About 1,000 people took the online survey that we sent out, had 20 questions, to see how you feel about the reopening. What are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? Are you planning on coming back now or planning on coming back later, and so forth? And that data was very, very helpful as we developed our strategies. Now, before I continue, I do want to just acknowledge that in a church our size, we have all kinds of needs and all kinds of viewpoints. Some of you that are watching this are going to be feeling that maybe we're opening too early. Others that are watching this are probably thinking we're being too cautious with some of our safety measures. The truth of the matter is, both points of view have a valid perspective, and we're listening to both of those views. And we're also listening to those in between those views to try to have a very sane, well-educated, confident reopening of the church. And let me talk to you quickly about some of the procedures. When you come to church during this phase of reopening, you can expect everyone to be masked. You can expect 6 foot of social distancing for everybody in the church. You're going to see frequent sanitizing stations. You're going to be able to come into the church and leave the church without opening a door with your hands. We're not going to have a Sunday school. At this point, parents will have children sit with them. The services will be short, about 65 minutes long. Our ushers will seat you in a seat that you have registered for online, so that when you come in the door, we're going to take you to your seat. If you have a group of 4, family of 5, we'll bunch you together. Everybody else will be 6 foot away. The bathrooms, we're not going to be using the bathrooms except where where there's a kind of a semi-emergency. And then we'll make sure we use safe protocol there and clean the bathroom so that it's good for the next person to use. When you come to church, you'll be greeted in the parking lot by our parking team. They'll park the cars. We're going to separate the cars a little bit. And then as you come into the church, you come in through one door. After the service, you'll come out a separate door. When you do come into the church, you're going to be interviewed very quickly with 2 or 3 questions, like, do you have symptoms of COVID? Are you living with somebody that has the symptoms? And then we're going to, if you pass that, we're going to give you a green or maybe a different color wristband. Nothing will be on it, just plastic. And put that on. Everybody in the church then will have one of those on, and that will mean this: you have answered the questions and have gone through the right entrance into the church, so that everybody can feel comfortable. There's nobody that's violating the safety rules that we put in place. So I think all these things in place, I think you can feel this is a very good protocol. Matter of fact, can I tell you, we had a health professional from the city come to our church for an unrelated reason, and we shared with them all that we're doing, and they said, you guys are doing as well as anybody we've seen in town. Matter of fact, they said, we want to take what you're doing and share it with other churches. That was a great compliment from a health professional. Not a health professional, it was a city health official that was checking different things. They just happened to be in our church, and so I wanted to pass that on to you. And all the protocols we have, they're in writing, and we have handouts available, and we're going to be posting that online. We have made every effort to communicate. It'll be on Facebook, website, in writing. I'm bringing our elders all up to speed on all these steps this Saturday. So every elder will be a resource of knowledge. The staff will be a resource of knowledge. We want to open up New Life in the right way, with high energy, high faith, high expectation, but also high safety and high concern for every person in our church. We've done a lot of stuff online. You've noticed the noontime prayer is reaching between 1,500 and 2,500 people a day, Monday through Saturday. It's awesome. The children and the youth are doing some fantastic things online. Hundreds of families are getting top-notch content. Rhonda and I did an evening show called Conversations with Dan and Rhonda. We did 5 or 6 shows that had anywhere to 2,500 to 3,000 people tuned in to that as well. Our Sunday services, if you count all of our digital platforms, I'm told by the awesome Terry Simmons, about 10,000 people to 15,000 people are viewing all of those different platforms together. So the online ministry is going to continue. You say, Dan, Pastor, I don't want to go back to church. You know what? We're going to have an awesome online service, online ministry. It's going to continue. At the same time, we're reopening our physical brick and mortar buildings. June the 14th, teenagers, listen up. June the 14th, Sunday morning, we're going to have an event for our teenagers where, with social distancing and appropriate masking, they're going to have youth events together. Our youth need to get together. Our teenagers need to interact with one another. We're going to make that happen on June the 14th. More details on that to come. 2 more things and we're done today. Thank you, New Life. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being flexible, being generous. Our offerings, right after the COVID crisis hit, they took a significant dip. But you know what? We've been bouncing back from that. You've been faithful in your tithes and offerings, and I want to say thank you. Our staff had a very temporary pay reduction. That's been restored. Praise God. Benefits have been restored. Praise God. Our core pastoral team, administrative team, building teams, they've stayed intact. And that would not have happened if you hadn't been faithful in your giving, whether online or dropping it off at the church. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And the last thing I want to say, shout out to the greatest team this church has as a staff. Our production, media, online team is awesome. Our children's team, youth team, awesome. Our campus pastors, top drawer people. Our executive team, the best I've ever met. Our finance team, They're cooking. They're doing a tremendous, they're not cooking the books. They're just cooking. They're doing an awesome job. Our building teams, I mean, you could eat off the floor in these buildings. I mean, they're cleaning it like no man's business. And people, the staff is observing masking. They're observing 6 feet distancing. I'm proud. If I left out somebody on the staff, I'm sorry. I'm proud to be on this team. I'm with them. I'm not over them. I'm with them. And I want you to know, if you're watching this video, we are working our tail off to make your experience in New Life as we reopen the best it can be. Now be patient. Day one is not going to be like the old world. But give it some time, and we're going to find the glory of God in every service, in every campus. So, Pastor Dan here. I love being your senior pastor. I love working for this church. And I hope this COVID-19 update brings you up to speed on where we're at with reopening. See you on Pentecost.